Hi, Chuck Thompson here. This is Why Me, the third in the Why Mystery series featuring Detective Natty Moreland. And I'd like to read you the prologue from this book. The prologue. It was a little thing, but it disappointed him anyway. He wanted to hear the tink as he threw the empty beer can on the floor behind the passenger seat of his Mustang. You could never hear that tink with the first can, because there's nothing for it to hit against. But with each empty can after the first one, the chances of hearing the tink got better and better. He shrugged. It was his second beer, which meant it would have to be a lucky toss to hit the first empty. It was lucky about half the time. He could have looked where he was throwing, but that would have broken the rules. His rules. Another rule required that because he had not heard the tink, he'd have to open another can while he sat there in his driveway. He hadn't planned on drinking on the way home from the food city. He had promised his wife he wouldn't drink while he drove anymore. But a promise to her didn't change anything. A promise to her was just to shut her up. Besides, a cold beer was how you took the edge off of locking in. Locking in was what a pilot did once the computer had zeroed in on a target. Locking in didn't mean you were going to fire on the target, but it did mean that an attack was only a nanosecond away. When you got locked in, your focus on the target was complete. Nothing else mattered. If the attack was triggered, then destroying your enemy, that was all that mattered. Who else might get hurt, what it cost, even your own pain. They were irrelevant once you got locked in. He hadn't been looking for trouble. He was just pulling out of a parking place at the food city when a punk kid told him, "Get your head out of your ass and watch where you're going." It was true. He hadn't been looking when he backed up. He did come close to hitting the kid's car. But nobody talks to me like that, he told himself. At least nobody was going to do it twice. That punk would not do it twice, that was for sure. So he got out of his Mustang and he walked over to the punk's car. He walked slowly, taking his time, glancing around the parking lot several times. He was casual, confident, knowing he was being watched, but avoiding looking at the car until he got there. "What did you say, Shirley?" he said calmly as he leaned into the open door. He could see the punk sizing him up. As for the kid, he was a stereotype of a wisecracking stoner. Long greasy hair, pale skin, pimples, baggy black t-shirt, some kind of monster on it, cigarette over his left ear. A nice-looking, well-groomed younger girl sat in the passenger side of the front seat. Her Food City shirt made him think like maybe it was a punk's sister. Clearly she was too classy for the stoner. There were two good-sized kids sitting in the back seat, though. A direct stare at each one of them ensured they would stay where they were. The punk hesitated, probably concerned about how he looked to his entourage. But a prolonged gaze at the intensity in the eyes that were locked on him made the decision for him. That was the moment he'd been looking for. The moment his target realized his fate. The last slow exhale and the slump of the shoulders as his eyes went blank. He didn't really even need the fight itself. The acceleration came from the victory. When he saw the humiliation in the punk's eyes, he asked again, "Come on, Shirley, tell me. What'd you say?" "Nothing," the punk answered. "That's what I thought." "That's what I thought," he repeated out loud to himself as he sat inside his driveway, savoring the memory. As he rubbed his good luck piece, a custom-made gold ace of diamonds amulet hanging from a gold chain around his neck, he finished his third beer. He tossed the empty over his shoulder and waited for the sound. Tink. He laughed. His life could not have been better. Taking the grocery bag under his arm, he strolled towards his house. He never saw the person waiting in the shadows by the front door until he felt the arm around his neck. He recognized the sleeper hole, but too late to do anything about it. It was a blessing, though, that he was unconscious. 3 of his ribs and his upper right leg were broken with what the doc said was a blunt instrument. Probably the baseball bat lying next to him when they found him.